This video will walk you through the fan speed sensor replacement process for Salford chassis mounted air booms using a 10-inch Crary fan. This includes the AB300AF and the AB320AF, DF, CF, and RF air boom models. If you've determined that the fan speed sensor on your air boom has failed, replacement is quick and easy. Before working on your machine, ensure that the chassis is turned off and there is no power running to the fan. Begin by removing the bolts holding the swing-out cooler door. Once the bolts have been removed, open up the swing door, which will give you access to the impeller. Locate the sensor cable and cut any zip ties holding it in place. Unplug the sensor and pull the cable through the cooler housing. Now you can loosen the sensor using an 1 3/4 crow's foot wrench and then remove the failed sensor. Take the new sensor and install it on the sensor bracket, loosely tightening the nuts on the sensor. Now you will need to set the gap between the sensor face and the pickup bolts on the impeller. This gap should be around 1/8 of an inch. To achieve this, you may use a zip tie, tightening the sensor nuts down until you've achieved the correct gap. Be sure to check that the gap is the same for both pickup bolts. If the gap is different, you may need to adjust the depth of the bolts until they are equal. Now secure the sensor in place. Because the sensor is made of plastic, ensure you do not over-tighten, as this can lead to damaging the nuts on the sensor. Once secured, double-check the sensor gap to ensure that the sensor position did not shift when it was tightened down. Run the cable on the new sensor through the cooler housing and plug the new sensor in. Replace any zip ties that were cut when the old sensor was removed. Ensure that there is still some slack in the cable and the zip ties are not pulling on the cable too tightly. Trim the zip ties and then close the cooler door. The nuts and bolts holding the swing door can now be reinstalled and tightened down. You can then test run the fan and verify that the fan speed is being displayed. Once confirmed, your Salford air boom is ready for the field again.